Good morning, Hallowed Haven family. This is After Dawn, the show where we sit down to have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators behind the Hallowed Haven Studios productions. I am Saul, and I'm joined by my co-host, Scott.
Yes, hello, I am Scott, and today we're talking about Scion Apotheosis episode 9, The One to Survive. It was an interesting episode where we got to have some role-playing and some action. We got to have some people sit down with some antagonists and try to convince them to join the Bayesian Confused squad. And we witnessed a little kleptomania. It was a good episode. We also had, more wolves, as we tend to expect in the show at this point. But I think it was a great episode, honestly. It was really fun. And even though I had to listen to it 30-minute stints because I was doing a convention, I still, there were parts where I just wanted to keep listening, but people were showing up at my table. So I was like, dang it, go away. But that's it. My thoughts are not the only ones here. What are your thoughts, Saul?
I'm inclined to agree. It was a really good episode. I liked that it had action along with the heart. It had a really good role play to go along with fighting all of the wolves, as is old hat for the Beijing Shoe Squad. And I had a similar issue where I was trying to listen to it at work driving, so I had to keep stopping and pausing and just being like, "Go away, so I can finish this." But also, we are not the only ones here. We are joined by campaign antagonists Termite and the good old Heretic. Hello.
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 Heretic coming at us with that smooth voice.
Always. I try.
Welcome to our show for the first time, both of you. Thanks for being here and also being antagonists in the show, being our first antagonists on our show. So this is all a whole bunch of firsts right now. For both of you, how has it been following the campaign, especially considering that you both have some insight onto what's going on in the background that the PCs don't know about?
Well, it's been quite interesting to be privy to a lot of the background information before the characters find it out.
Yeah. Porcelain and I have done a lot of talking about things happening, both that the PCs aren't aware of and just general behind the scenes stuff. And it's been interesting to watch everything come together in the way that it has so far.
Yeah, it's kind of nice kind of seeing behind the screen a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, you guys aren't the ones getting blindsided by things.
You say that, but I've still been blindsided by a lot of things that have happened.
That's fair. So, Termite, what are the highs and lows of playing Gwen for episodes of Apotheosis?
I think one of my favorite parts is just being able to be the, completely unhinged, irredeemably evil person that Gwen has become. Especially because I, as a player, kind of thrive on spite. So being able to channel a fictional part of it, but being able to channel that has been very fun. Especially in a way where, nobody's actually injured by it and everything is, working properly. I haven't really had any lows. All my interactions I've had with the group have been real fun, and I mean, I love the character, the evil bitch that she may be.
Fair enough. Heretic, same question for you. What's it like playing Stefan?
It's really interesting because he's changed slightly over the course. He's always been the big bad wolf guy that he has, but his personality kind of evolved as I saw the characters in play. A lot of the characters have influenced him quite a bit over the session. I think I nag Porcelain more when a session is happening than I do offline. I'm slightly sad that he hasn't been able to interact with Coda yet. At least in person.
Gotta
Oh.
save that up for the finale.
Yeah, that'd be your low, right? Not interacting with Coda.
Yeah, not being able to interact with every because the rest of them are great. And I want to have some of that, the other PC that hasn't been able to.
What preparations? This is a question for both. What preparations do you guys usually go through to play your particular characters in this campaign or like in any?
I personally don't really have much in terms of preparation. Um, I think one of the things that I have started getting into is like making a playlist for the character, which very much helps to like get into the right headspace for whatever character I'm playing, be it Gwen or a hero in some kind of high fantasy game. Just being able to get into that right mentality of, all right, so this is who this person is. This is who I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to be acting for the next however long. Is very helpful for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I actually had to make my first playlist for a character while making Stefan. And the playlist you see on the Hallowed Haven Spotify has most of them, but I actually added on more music just because I went, this is a great way to get in character.
It seems that playlists and mood boards are the top people in the studio so far. So I do like that that Damien he tries to find the character's walk, and then he tries to walk like the character, and then he can figure out all the mannerisms based on that. Just an interesting way to approach it. But for the most part, that's been everyone's things playlist. On a related I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Playlists are great just because music is so versatile.
Yeah. And then on a related note, right? This is my next question is for both of you again. We know that most players put a little bit of themselves into their characters, even if they don't intend to. Even if sometimes they start off trying to be like the complete opposite of who they are. How much control do either of you have over the creation of your character, and what would you say are some aspects of yourselves that you've put inside these SPCs?
Well, I had almost full reign over Stefan. The main thing that was thrown in was the fact that he was the wolves were the only thing that were really added to him. The rest of it, me and Porcelain went over while we were making him. So I kind of had free reign on his whole like personality, story.
Yeah, similar story with Gwen. I had pretty much free reign over who she was, who her divine parent initially was, what happened that led to her fall from grace.
Ooh.
And it was pretty much all on me to kind of figure out who she was as a character. And yeah, just like with Heretic, I talked with pretty much everything, talked with Porcelain about just about every aspect of it, just to make sure that, it fit in, that the idea would make a good story, stuff like that.
Yeah, and do either of you think that any parts of yourself come out in the character? Like your actual selves?
I think for me, for Gwen, it's there's a part of me there, but it's it's been twisted entirely beyond recognition. There's that hint of like her wanting to be able to make things right and in the way that she thinks they are right. But her perception of what is right and what is wrong and how things should be has been very warped by her life.
Yeah, for Stefan, I'm the oldest out of all of my siblings, and I have quite a few. So I try and kind of push that in his whole family feeling of being kind of an asshole because he feels he has superiority, but also still trying to help and protect.
So I'm hearing that you're kind of an asshole.
No, I'm perfect.
That's what they all say.
I mean, as the oldest as well, you kind of sometimes are a little bit of an asshole, right?
Yeah, you don't try to be, but it's an experience. You're the test child, so to speak.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
I was the first draft and only drafted in my own family.
Oh, dang, you have the only child syndrome then, eh?
I sure do.
Oh god, what's that like?
Uh there's a lot of pressure to not also be the screw up child. So this is actually a chat question for Heretic. What is your favorite misspelling of Stefan? Because we know that with a name like Stefan, there has to.
Oh man, yeah. So the correct spelling is Steffan,
I got it right the first time. Yes.
which is also wrong on stream, but
Yeah, I saw that. Sorry. Go ahead.
I
Beautiful.
messed it up. I even messed it up. It's because Porcelain asked me how to spell it, and I only did one F because it was quicker. I think there's one that they had quite a bit. There's some that I haven't even seen. I think it has to be. Let me find because it's somewhere in the memes.
There was like
Getting
a
spelled
Stefan.
CSTHEHFFPHAUN. The most horrendous spelling and longest.
That was like a journey in and of itself.
Yeah, you look at that name and you accidentally summon a demon.
Yeah, reading that for the first time, let me tell you, I stopped thinking for a second just so I could process what's happening.
Yeah, that's like the shut-off code for somebody's brain. Somewhere out there, a spy has been acting.
Greatest response. Well, Termite, which do you like better? Do you like better being a PC or an SPC? And how would you describe them as being different?
I prefer. Oh god, I don't even know which one I prefer. I think I prefer being a PC. But being an SPC has been a whole lot of fun. For a few reasons. One, sometimes you just gotta be evil. You gotta cause problems for people. And it's difficult to do that as a PC, but as an SPC, that's kind of my job, is to just be at minimum a minor inconvenience to the PCs. But I do love being a PC because that the sense of having the group come together as a whole, which I mean we've seen in Apotheosis, and I still love even if I'm not a part of it. is awesome. Just seeing so many different kinds of people come together and work together so well, and being a part of that as a PC is great.
It's kind of nice to hear that despite being antagonists, you're all loving the fact that your antagonism is bringing the group together. It's kind of a neat like perspective, you know?
Oh yeah. Building up the group is our role as an SPC. Or trying to tear it apart in my case.
Well, I mean, in general, by trying to tear it apart, we end up building it up because they have to work together or they don't make it.
I gave a whole lecture in college about the use of chaos on entropy. It's exactly what.
On the plus side of being a villain, an antagonistic SPC, you usually get to be at least a little bit stronger than the players. It's kind of like there was a quote I watched about, like a quote I read about being the villain in a movie is being a villain is great because the only fight you have to lose is the last one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, being more powerful than the players has also been fun. Especially when they're the first time I had that Gwen interacted with them, which was wonderful. The way they killed that wolf was amazing. But knowing that no matter what they did, Gwen was going to walk away, is it's fun to know that there will be very little consequences to you causing very real problems for people in a game like this.
Fair enough. Seeing that, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I agree quite a bit. I don't know how strong the others are, but Stefan is above the party, I know this. But I think he's on par with most of the other NPCs, which is nice to know. A
Considering that
lot of
there's some powerful.
Oh yeah, a lot of it comes down to mostly, he's gonna get probably uh, stomped by the party if they have enough time to plan. But it's good to know that he could at least hold up a fight to 4 godchildren.
So, here's another question for both of you. Seeing that this game is so caught up in myths and legends, what's your favorite mythological pantheon?
So far as Pantheon, like as a whole, I'm at the very least the most familiar with the Greek, and they have a lot of fun stories. However, when it comes to getting more specific, I think one of my favorite gods, goddesses, deities in any mythology is Hell, and that is actually a big part of why Gwen is a child of Hell. It's just because Hell as an entity has always been very interesting to me.
Personally, I'm most familiar with Greek and Norse, which isn't a ton, but I do have a favorite god in all the pantheons, which would be Majed, a random Egyptian god that has almost nothing on them, just because I find their image funny, their symbol. It was carved into the side of either a book or a pyramid, I don't remember which.
What can you describe the symbol?
Yeah, it is basically imagine somebody wearing like a tablecloth, give it eyes and feet. That's it.
I know
Hmm.
that symbol.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, a really goofy symbol.
Yeah. If I could have played any god in this game, I would have been them. Just because of their no context, and it's funny.
Well, for both of you, another question. Which character, PC or SBC, is your favorite in the Scion campaign?
It's a tough one.
That's a one. I feel like that's a very loaded question, but it's also a very
Kind
difficult
of.
question because all of them are great. All the PCs are amazing. All the SPCs I've seen are great. Their portrayals are awesome. But I do very much like Sarah, because one, having her be such a foil to Gwen completely accidental, is freaking awesome. But she's also just she seems so determined to try and make things right, despite everything that, especially her father as the god of vengeance, um, despite everything he says, she's more than willing to not give a damn and do what she thinks is right, as was evidenced by her spearheading the plan to save Stefan.
Yeah, with me, it's really hard to pick against the party, but there is one character that I enjoy quite a bit just because of their uh, similar to termites, opposite nature to stuff. Which, funnily enough, is not Chris, it's Oliver. Due to the whole courage situation and how he thinks about things. Oliver is a much more book knowledge, practical kind of guy that is growing his courage and learning how to be brave. Stefan is a lot more street smart and very already, like, very courageous. So it's an interesting dynamic to see somebody who's growing into it versus somebody who probably has to tone it down a bit.
Is it courage if you know you can beat them?
Yeah, because he eventually, his goals were not set on Scions. He was aiming higher up on the totem.
Yeah, he's trying to punch up.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. So since we're getting to know both of you, what is your RPG experience? Like, how long have you been playing? What's your favorite game? That kind of thing.
I genuinely don't remember exactly how long I've been playing. I want to say it's going on 7 or 8 years this summer. And I don't really have a favorite system or game that I've been in, because all of the experiences I've had, especially recently, have been really fun and really cool. That being said, World of Darkness is great. I'm very sad that the Changeling the Dreaming game I was in at one point blew up because fairies are fun, and I love the Fae. So I guess if I had to pick one, then Changeling is probably my top.
Go ahead and sidestep our next question, then. Why don't you?
Yeah, no kidding.
My experience is a bit longer, but my dad's a super nerd, so I kind of got introduced pretty early on. About 9 years. Started with D&D. World of Darkness was actually, I wouldn't say new, but I'm not super familiar with a ton of the systems. So getting into it, I think so far my favorite's Vampire. But it's hard to choose, as I also like Werewolf quite a bit, I just haven't been able to play it.
Yeah, that was going to be our next question. Like, what is your favorite World of Dark? Both answered that. Sheesh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I can predict your questions.
Just keep Scott out of a job, I guess.
Yeah, skip me. Next question, I guess.
So, which do you two prefer, in-person role-playing or online role-playing?
I would say, personally, I enjoy online. It's much easier for me to be able to do it without having to set a date or time that, you'd have to go somewhere in person to. It's also, I'm a lot more comfortable speaking to people online. I'm not like,
That voice.
yeah, voice for radio, face also for radio. So it's easier to go out and, talk to people when you're not having to sit and be a different person in front of them, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree. I definitely prefer online role playing for similar reasons as Heretic, but also it's much easier to build a proper community. At least from my experience online, it's a lot easier to kind of get people together that share like thought processes, things like that, to establish things like Hallowed Haven. I feel is much easier to do online than it would be to try to do something similar in person. Just because in person, you have to deal with people that may not jive well with the group, and it can be kind of difficult to get out of situations like that in person. But when it comes to online role playing, it's far easier to kind of make sure everybody in the group kind of works together well and gets along well, and there are less problems.
Yeah, I could see that. I like playing in person, but I could definitely see those benefits that you both mentioned for online role playing. I mean, I'm basically 50-50 on it because both are enjoyable. But yeah, you made some good points there.
I will say, tabletop dice are much more enjoyable.
Oh, I do
Hard agree.
love me my math rocks.
Yeah, I mean, I still, even though when people do online role playing, they want, most of the time they're like, oh, we have this digital dice roller. I still like to roll dice at home. So when I run games online, I'm often like, well, if you want to roll dice at home, that's fine. I trust you. You're the one who has to tell me a lie and deal with the consequences of that in your own karmic background, but that's not my problem.
The dice gods.
Well, final question for in the percolating section, because, it's time to start drinking our cups. What is the oddest experience in real life that turned out to have had a weird kind of help in your role playing games? And I'll kind of explain that a little bit, I guess, maybe. Like I used to work in security, and so I've had weird experiences with people, but just the experience of working in security has helped me in a lot of role playing games to think about things slightly differently than maybe the GM was even expecting.
This is a weird one, but I've worked mainly people jobs. I'm currently a cook and a chef, but I've worked, retail stuff in the past, which helps you learn how to lie, which is good when you're playing a character that has to be kind of secretive. You learn how to make up fake stories quite a bit, which improvisation. I also took an acting class, which I should have brought up first, as that's probably the most related.
For me, I am still fairly young, so I haven't had a whole lot of experiences. But uh, in high school, I found myself in a lot of groups, which were how do I word this? Um, I I don't know. I guess the biggest thing is, growing up uh, LGBT plus and like having to hide that almost kind of helped me be more comfortable with things like role playing, because it's, at least in my experience, kind of a similar thing of I'm just acting like somebody that I'm not. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
my whole high school experience was stuff like that for various reasons, be it, you know, people being people very difficult to deal with, as they tend to be, or just me not being super comfortable with who I am and not like super willing to express that outwardly.
well, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that was the experience, but I'm glad that it does help be who you are in role playing games. You know.
Yeah, I I have accepted that it's how it was, but things are much better now, and I'm very happy with where I'm at today.
Good. It was a little tea, but it was good tea, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty heavy for the percolating, but it's good to have it.
Yeah, it's good that you seem comfortable now.
Yeah. So I think it's time that we start drinking our cups here. Let's go ahead and begin with another question directed towards Termite. So, Termite, how about that ability to remove the possibility of regaining willpower? That's pretty intense.
So yeah, that ability is something that I've been kind of sitting on since I built the character. Um, because I very much built her to, even if she isn't, actively being super aggressive, she's there to be a thorn in the side of the group. Um, so things like that, being able to, you know, put at least one member of the party into a blind fear. Basically, things that let her not necessarily be, outwardly evil and hostile, but that kind of give a glimpse of, yeah, if she wanted to, she could probably do a whole lot worse. And this is a warning more than anything.
That is an intense warning.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was a very intense moment.
Yeah, and on that note, this is another question for you. Do you want to give us some insight into what it's like being a Scion of Hell?
So it's it's interesting. Um, as was pointed out in game during that scene, um, Gwen is a lot like Hell. They're both very very cold individuals that care less for the big picture and more for what they're dealing with at the moment. Hell is known to be very reclusive for a number of reasons. The most common of which is the fact that, she is, one, a child of Loki, which people don't like regardless of how good or whatever they may be. But she also has half of her body is that of in various portrayals, a rotting corpse. So most gods don't want to be around her, which I think has led to that cold demeanor developing. And it definitely, at least I tried to have that show up. Like that's why Gwen kind of turned out the way she did. Is her birth father didn't like her, to put it lightly, because of who her mother was and what she looked like, mostly.
That actually kind of brings up the question of if he didn't like Hell, well, how did Gwen come about?
That is a good question. People are willing to do and are into a whole lot of things. And it's what happened wasn't necessarily intentional. But unfortunately, the consequences of it came about 9 months later, and now there's this child of a god of the dead with a mother that, can't really show her face without causing terror, and also doesn't really want to show her face because she's more comfortable in her throne room watching the gates of hell. And a father that, if he had his way, wouldn't have a child, because she is a reminder of things that he'd wish he'd never done.
Well, that's a whole bunch of stuff to get around.
Yeah, no kidding. Again, very heavy.
I mean, we are talking the sign of hell here, so.
Yeah, that's true. So this is for both of you. We heard in the last episode there was some disappointment in Gwen's voice. What's that all about?
So, Gwen and Stefan have been working together on this for, I don't know what we ended up deciding, but a while. At minimum 2-3 years, they have been kind of working together to achieve these ends. And at least from Gwen's perspective, to have him turn his back on her and go back to people that would happily see him executed if they had the chance, is not only disappointing and kind of shakes any faith that she had in him, but is also potentially the worst feeling of betrayal she's ever had in her life. Because, well, after growing up and not really having anywhere to belong, she finally found Stefan and the Fenris Wolves. And now it's just her in the Fenris roles.
Yeah, it's no longer Gwen Stefani, right?
No,
Correct.
no longer.
No longer.
I feel like with the disappointment, it's kind of the same on Stefan's side. Because he had been doing it a lot longer. Gwen had, but he also never had the experience of being a Scion. Being on the side of the gods. He's always been on the whole, wolf train. So he's disappointed, but not much he can do, really.
Um, the two of them are when they're working together they can get along, but really at heart they are very, very opposed in why they were doing what they did. Like Heretic said, Stefan had only ever known the wolves, and was doing it mainly to protect Scion's Loki, whereas Gwen intentionally sought it out because she was tired of what her life had become.
We'll circle back to that because the chat had some more questions for you, Termite, about Gwen. So, but let's ask Heretic a question. Heretic, what control did you have over the first meeting with Stefan and Chris?
Oh, not much. This is actually kind of funny and interesting. I didn't know Stefan was about to meet Chris at that point. I knew I was coming in at some point, but my internet cut out right as I was being introduced, so I didn't realize that I was coming in. So, when the car scene happened, I kinda flew by the rails. I'd gotten messaged about it, I'd gotten ready, but yeah, it was interesting, because everybody else decided to go up to their rooms, but we kinda had to plan around them, because if they all went in a group, there would have to be something to get Chris alone. So, it was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Well, it was a neat introduction.
Yeah, it was planned to happen, but we didn't know how it was going to happen. But it went well enough.
It did, and now we're kind of wondering: is the recent change in last episode mean that Stefan is transitioning from an SPC to a PC?
No clue. I don't think that's up to me. I would love to, but also, he might die, so that's a problem.
That is a problem.
It's true.
So we'll just see how fate goes, I guess.
So let's talk about a little something different. What's it like to command and control the Fenris?
That's for both of you.
Well, first off, they're all named. Each wolf has a name. We're keeping track of which one killed which PC/SPC. But I guess that is more of Termite's job.
There is.
Which bitch did in Teddy?
Mistel.
Yeah.
That sounds about
wow.
right.
Yeah, and Meatball killed I forget her name.
Moira?
Moira, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, so Moira was killed by Meatball, and Teddy was killed by Mistletoe.
Mistletoe is such a on-brand name for anything involving Loki. That's just perfect. Now here's another question. Which one got blown the hell up?
Oh, we actually tracked this.
Wasn't it Fluffy?
I think it was Fluffy.
I think Fuzzy. Sorry, it was Fuzzy.
I like that there's a whole list of the Fenris Wolves and what they're up to. That's cool.
Well, they are just big puppies.
Yes. Kind of.
They're big, smart puppies.
Now you're going to tell me they're people and they have birthdays. Come on now.
Oh. Stefan probably raised a few of them, so possibly. Because they are wolves.
I mean, that's fair. Well, back to that question that I was sort of pending. Termite, some of the chat just wants to give Gwen a hug. Who is Gwen's emotional support and coping mechanism without Stefan?
Well, as was hinted in that question, murder. She has no real good ways of dealing with things, especially now that she's pretty much alone. So she's going to start taking the anger that she has out on just about everybody she can find.
So the
That's
emotional supports are a bunch of dead bodies. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, let's be honest, seems fitting.
Everyone is a stress
fair.
ball.
Everyone's a stress. Exactly.
So, Heretic. In the last episode, we found out that Stefan is looking for family, support, protection. Would you like to elaborate more, a little bit more on what he's looking for about what he truly wants out of all those?
Yeah, Stefan is not the only child to his mother. He had siblings. He had a family. But he can't really talk to them anymore, as he's kind of wanted by the gods. So he had it all once in the past. He's found other children of Loki that have died, he's seen it happen. He's been hunted. He was a firefighter. He's very minded in protecting and helping. So a lot of it, when he, became a Scion of Loki through means that he did not choose, he kind of figured out that, I'm getting hunted. Nobody's helping me. So I just kind of have to step up. And when the wolves came and interacted with him, he saw an opportunity to, do something to help. Even if the means are very, very questionable.
I mean, they sound pretty questionable. But are they really? Right? That's the question to ask. Motivate any antagonist.
Indeed.
Especially
What are
if you
the
don't have that many options left to you.
True.
Yeah.
I was gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just agreeing.
I was just gonna ask Termite, what are the chances that the Scions might sway Gwen into joining if they happen to find out what can motivate her?
Unfortunately, for Gwen, one, even if she wanted to come back, the way that they're bringing Stefan back would not work for her. And two, Gwen's goals are at this point very, very centered around destruction. So the chances of them being able to pull her back from that edge are very, very slim.
Yeah, I feel like Gwen's goals are much more personal than Stefan's.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Gwen cares more about what she will do and what she'll get. Stefan is, as you might have seen, much more willing to die for this.
Okay. So no chance.
Almost certain.
Got it.
So, considering there is a grand total of one more episode left in this season, what should we be expecting from these two characters in the final episode? Or is there going to be a great epic showdown, or is that maybe a little too much tease?
Well, I might die. So,
Yeah. So Stefan might die. Gwen is going to be up to some things behind the scenes that don't necessarily involve the party directly.
I would say expect tragedy. That's about it. In one form or another, either from Stefan or Gwen.
I think that's to be expected after episode 1.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, now that we're ready to spill some tea, let's get down to some real business here. How many Scions has Stefan killed?
Oh man, like a lot. I don't know personal numbers, as we never figured it out, but he's killed enough that he's been, I would say, at least he's talking to Garm, which is the leader of the Fenris Wolves, like across the entire world. So enough that he is high enough on rank, taking orders from basically the highest ranking Fenris Wolf besides Fenrir.
Okay, that's a lot. I mean, we got a hint of that based on all the weird gear that he had.
Yeah, a lot of that is things that he's pilfered from the bodies of Scions. He's built around, this is interesting, he's built around hunting and tracking because I was still building him when Chris, the first episode came out, and Chris was determined Artemis's children. So I thought it would be an interesting similarity for Chris to adopted child of the god of hunting, and for Stefan, one of the best hunters out.
Can you say sibling rivalry?
Yeah. Gotta build them to be similar, but just a bit more evil on my end.
Fair enough. So, got a question for our friend Termite. Who is Gwen going to kill if the moment she gets a chance?
Oh, that's a long list. I will say, potential spoilers for season 2, but depending on how the next episode goes, Stefan is at the top of that list right now. If she gets the chance, then it's not going to end well for one of them.
That makes sense.
Yikes. Yeah, I mean, we all kind of figured Stefan was at the top of the list. You know?
Trail's a bitch.
Yes, it is. This is a question for Heretic that came from the chat. Is Stefan looking to pull a Loki and looking for a chance to stab his brother?
No. Stefan actually differs a lot from Loki. Well, kind of. He is into tricking, but he's actually built a lot more around being able to tell lies and read people. As a lot of his stuff in his past has been unexpected, and he has been hunted for so long that tricking and hiding, yeah, he's good at it, but he also is a lot more comfortable being honest and being able to see if somebody's honest. Of course, given the opportunity, he would have for last episode.
Mm. The approach made a difference, eh?
Yeah, I'd say. Maybe not stab so much as kidnap. The others he would have stabbed.
Fair enough. Would he give his brother the old "we're not so different, you and I" speech?
Probably. That would probably devolve into the cutting off of a hand of like Luke Skywalker situation.
Ah.
As Chris, I think, is very noticeably not into the whole killing other Scions deal.
Search your feelings, you know it to be true, Chris. We actually spoke with Jazzy in the last episode. Was it Jazzy the last episode? No.
Yes.
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 2 episodes ago. Something like that. We were told that given any ability to sway the Science, Kareem would bury Stefan. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that's interesting. Personally, I think Stefan is he's scary. He's not built for melee at all. But he is very, very strong. Relics mostly are his powers and stuff because, you know, he wasn't chosen by a god. But just stat-wise, he's pretty powerful if he can get it ranged. Also, I don't think he saw Kareem as much of a threat.
Ooh, that's some.
Yikes! Called out.
Well, Termite, you hinted at a season 2. So does that mean you're already planning on coming back as Gwen Chambers, or would you prefer to be a protagonist if you came back?
Oh no! If I get the chance to come back for season 2, Gwen's gonna be coming back, and she's gonna be causing a lot of problems.
Antagonist.
Oh yeah.
Someone's got to sow that chaos, right?
Exactly. And Gwen has a lot of things that she can use to do it.
Makes sense. So we know that Gwen feels a little bit betrayed, or well, a lot of it betrayed by Stefan's choices. Do you have anything else to like more in depth to say about the relationship between Gwen and Stefan?
She definitely looked up to him. Because he'd been doing what he was doing for so long, and seemed to be very committed to it, and she respected that. And it was very much he was the one that knew what he was doing, and she was the one that did shit that needed to be done when it needed to be done, because Stefan was the one that said it needed to be done, and he was the one that handled most of the planning.
Well,
So now Gwen's lost her planner, so now it's just instinct.
Yeah, pretty much. Gwen cares far less for being subtle and trying to keep people off of her trail, because she thinks that no matter what happens, she'll be able to make it out on the other side, because she deserves to get what she wants more than the others do, in her eyes.
Well, is there anything you want to say to your companion here, or any questions you might have for the other one?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, just in terms of actual, like, sheet-wise, is Gwen a demigod yet?
Yes.
Alright, we're both demigods.
Yes. I believe we're both Legend 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some
Oh.
insight.
Yes, if that helps, Stefan has been doing his, Scion killing for long enough to become, a demigod without, being bound to public eyes. His fate is, mostly due to the gods being like, "Oh, this guy."
This guy, let me tell you about this guy.
Oh,
I-
this guy.
I do want to know, Termite, what is Gwen's, relationship with the wolves? I know Stefan's, but you are much more readily, I don't know how you interact with them.
Gwen definitely interacts with them a lot less than Stefan did. And she still sees them as family, but she doesn't have nearly as tight of a connection. And especially now that she's kind of in charge of them to an extent, she's going to be, instead of being a part of the pack, she's going to more be at the head, pushing things in the direction that she thinks they need to go.
I see.
They're great questions.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, geez, I didn't even have enough insight to ask that question.
I wish I came prepared with questions.
I have another one if you'd like.
Sure.
Does Gwen have any tattoos? As that was a big part of me building the character.
I didn't actually put much thought into that. I'm inclined to say that she doesn't have any. It's just not one. It's not one of those things that feels like it would really fit her. And if she does have any tattoos, it would be something probably incredibly morbid. But I haven't put nearly enough thought into that to actually make a proper decision.
Something done by a tattoo artist in a studio called like Incubus or something, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, just
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably be something like that. And something that she keeps hidden just about all the time, except for when shit is getting done by her.
I can imagine a lot of death metal playing in the background.
Yeah, what is the playlist you listen to get into her mindset?
So initially, it was more of a like generic kind of rock and like angry at the establishment, because initially that's what she was. She wasn't necessarily dead set on destroying everything. She was just angry at how everything was and how it impacted her. But between now and if I bring her back, I will be working on something. I will be working on a new playlist that is far more focused on kind of introspection and dealing with that sense of betrayal, because that's going to be the major thing that she's going to be grappling with for the next several months, is that the person she thought she could trust, she obviously couldn't. So now it's her job to clean up the mess.
Speaking of cleaning up the messes, I think we've got a decent amount of tea out here on the table, don't you think?
I definitely think so.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and say the last bits that we always say. These episodes are dropped on Thursday, so thanks for listening in. If you're listening on a Thursday, if you're listening in the public, then you're listening to it 1 month later. So, you're kind of behind the times and the season's already over at this point. So think about subscribing so you can be up to date with your talk news for Hallowed Haven Studios. Thank you, guests, for being here and being on our show.